Hello everyone, my name is Chris Titley and welcome to the FinTech Australia podcast. The FinTech Australia podcast takes listeners on a deep dive across the FinTech industry in Australia, focusing on the challenges, opportunities and big stories our community faces. Let's get to today's episode. Hi, it's Chris Titley here. As part of the FinTech Australia Business Spotlight series, I'm joined by Anthony Jones, Head of Digital Partnerships, Australia, New Zealand and South Pacific at Visa. People call you AJ, so I'm going to continue to do that trend. AJ, good morning.
Good morning to you, Chris. How are you?
I'm very, very well. It's a sunny day here in Brizzy. How about yourself?
I wish I could say the same. It's a grey morning in Sydney. It looks very London-like weather-wise out there. It's very grey and drizzly. With
the jumper on and the jacket to stay out of the cold. Now, Anthony, AJ, your role at Head of Digital Partnerships at Visa. Let's talk about digital partnerships and how Visa integrates with what you're doing.
Yeah, it's a good question, Chris, because, digital partnerships is relatively new. And what I mean by that is we set it up in about 2016, 2017. And it was really a desire to work more closely with fintech scale-up organizations and non-bank financial institutions to give them an easier pathway to launching predominantly the issuance of a Visa card, but also the acceptance of card transactions as well. So fintech partnerships grew through that digital partnership collaboration. And as a result of that, we've had a huge amount of success in working with non-bank financial institutions, helping them scale, helping them grow, and not only in Australia and New Zealand, but the rest of the world as well.
As the sort of the fintech ecosystem grows out, and there's been various trends over the last couple of years, how have you kept up with those trends, and how have you morphed your way into fintechs going, actually, what can Visa do for us, and how do we incorporate a partnership?
Yeah, again, a really fascinating question because it's evolved really quickly. So thinking that we started this team at the end of 2016, 2017, what we've seen is an evolution of the types of use cases that we've been working with. So the types of scale-up organizations has changed considerably. In the early days, and when I say early days, we're still only talking a few years ago, it was mainly neobanks. So like 86400 as an example, that wanted to add a card program, the ability to issue a Visa card to its customers. Then very quickly after that, we saw that emergence of the international remittance sector. And we work now with Airwallex, with Wise and Revolut as examples of international remittance. And that has continued over the last sort of 5 or 6 years. We then saw more enablers entering the market. So essentially neobanks that maybe pivoted, or fintech for fintech capabilities like Shape or Neum or Novarti, who have essentially built up an ecosystem of enablers now that can help those new fintechs scale for themselves. Then, of course, Australia was a hotbed for buy now, pay later. In a way, Australia was the founding father of BNPL. And so we saw the likes of Afterpay and we saw the likes of Zip really grow in that area too. Then we've seen lots of B2B propositions, so small business capabilities, platforms that help small businesses to make payments easier and more effectively. And then we saw digital assets, of course. We saw cryptocurrency exchanges wanting to add a card to their platform and their proposition, and globally Visa partners now with more than 70 different crypto exchanges. And so now we're starting to see an evolution again of artificial intelligence. So including generative AI. Yeah, exactly. Including generative AI into that platform, into a consumer platform or a B2B platform to again make that payment process and purchase process as easy as possible.
Fantastic. It has been it had been cycles all throughout, and during that sort of COVID lockdown period, there was an influx of buy now, pay later companies. I think 12 or 13 listed on the ASX, probably because of the, as you mentioned that hub. But when I think of Visa, you think of this global giant. It's listed in the US and it's huge. But when it comes to connecting locally, you're on the ground here. You're in Australia. You're connecting with the community. How best do you do that, and how have you found it so far?
Yeah, look, there's multiple ways in which we connect with the local fintech community. Obviously through FinTech Australia. So we've been sponsors and also members of FinTech Australia for several years, and that means that we sponsor the Finnies Awards. It means that we are always present at Intersect. It means that me and my team we attend quite a few FinTech Australia events as well, because we think it's really important just to keep close to the community. Also spending some time within the co-working spaces where we know a lot of fintechs and scale-ups are spending a lot of their time working and collaborating. We also need to be visible there and connecting with them there, and also through venture funds. So through venture capitalists and the work that they're doing, they're often good at spotting great ideas that are in the process of scaling up. Maybe they're at Series A or Series B, and that's exactly when we like to get involved as well and to assist those organizations. So through that process of working with the fintech community, that's been a really important way for us to, like I say, stay connected and understand what's happening within the Australian market. We then, of course, also launched our own fintech fast track program, which is the simplification of visa rules. So it makes it easier for a fintech, a scale-up organization, to work with us, get their visa principal license, and issue their own cards. So that was the whole process of the FinTech Fast Track program, coupled with some commercial incentives, of course, to make it easier for them during those early stages when they're launching a program, which can be expensive. So anything that we can do financially to assist through that process, we obviously try and do as well. And then, of course, most recently, we've got the FIFA Women's World Cup. Now, not specifically focused on fintech, but more about women in business. So we announced just yesterday, in fact, that we've got the Player of the Match award. So over the course of the 64 games of the Women's World Cup, which is obviously held here in Australia and New Zealand, we'll be giving away $500,000 to women-led businesses all across the globe. So the idea of that is just to promote women founders, whether that's a tech company or whether that's a more traditional business, but really just supporting the business community and females in particular.
That's fantastic, and looking forward to that event. And there are plenty of events here in Brisbane that we can't wait to get along to, and probably travel around the various parts of the country to catch those games. Super exciting. Now, you did mention in that previous sort of evolution of fintech in Australia that companies come to you for all sorts of different reasons, but predominantly, card issuance and ways of doing better payments, etc. But there must be sort of an evolution as well of payment trends that flow around here in Australia and globally, which people adapt faster or slower than other countries, etc. Can I get your view on what's happening in the world of payments at the moment?
Yeah, and look, we're in a very fortunate position at Visa because as a global organization, I have colleagues all over the globe on every continent, and we get together and share some of the best ideas that we're seeing from across the world. And what we see is different evolutions in different markets, but the themes that we're seeing again and again start really with embedded finance. That idea of adding a financial product to a platform or service that doesn't traditionally have financial services products engaged within them. So think, accounting platforms, even crypto exchanges. For many years, they didn't have a way of getting money out and being able to convert your crypto or your digital asset into a fiat currency and then being able to tap at the grocery store. So embedding of a financial product has been one key trend that we've seen a lot of movement in. The next one is partnerships by big banks. And increasingly, we're seeing large financial institutions which have traditionally built everything themselves, but increasingly now they are outsourcing their innovation to technology companies and scale-up organizations and partnering with them to build even better solutions for their customers, whether those customers are consumers or whether they're business users. Of course, open data has been really important. Several key markets around the world, particularly in Europe and also locally. So the ability to take your data from multiple financial institutions and consolidate it into one platform, or to easily call out to another financial institution to be able to check the credit rating and so forth. So open data is a big theme and an important trend we're seeing. Then, of course, the idea of mobile phones becoming terminals. All of us have these super computers in our pockets. So the idea of a merchant also needing to have a standalone piece of equipment for acceptance of a transaction is starting to ebb away and being replaced by the idea of tapping it on your iPhone or tapping it onto your Android phone instead. So that concept of having a terminal everywhere is becoming increasingly important. And over a period of time, we think will evolutionize and change, or even revolutionize. I think I invented a new word there, Chris. Will revolutionize.
It might be the heading of the podcast.
Evolutionize.
Yeah.
If it's not a word, it probably
should be a word. It's a cracking word.
But the idea of, changing the way that consumers make payments in stores, so that you can go into a stationery shop, or you can go into a hardware store, or you can go into a clothing retailer, and everybody that helps you in that store can essentially take payments. Yeah. So there's no need for a checkout, and there's no need for long lines as you want to buy your goods. And then the final one I'll touch on really is around artificial intelligence. We've all seen how important AI, and particularly generative AI, has become in the last 6 or 7 months since ChatGPT launched on the 30th of November. And we've all started to really grasp onto the idea that this could revolutionize, or even evolutionize
industries.
Industries, and the way that we make transactions, and the way that we go shopping, and the way that businesses buy from their suppliers as well.
A couple of questions on that. One being, you mentioned about the partnership route with large organizations. From a smaller organization, maybe someone has an idea or an MVP and they've got some customers, and then sort of walking into the rooms of the global behemoth, either the banks or the Visas, MasterCard, how do you walk them through that to go, well, are they a bit intimidated that their processes might not be up to speed, or you welcome them in and say, hang on a second, let's go through it and work out how we can best placed, for success?
Yeah, look, it's a good one, again, because I think, if you're a scale-up organization and you're planning to work with a bank, you've got to make sure that you've got everything, nut tight, bolted down in terms of your capabilities and in terms of your security. Because if you want to work with a large financial institution, you need to make sure that you remove any kind of reputational risk or any kind of security or fraud risk that might take place. So compliance is going to be an overriding factor. And if you don't have the stomach for that, well, you probably shouldn't be in payments full stop. Yep. But your ability to partner with a large bank is going to be significantly diminished if you're not able to stand that out.
And the other question around that, the AI trend. I mean, you've obviously created the word evolutionize from typing into ChatGPT by combining a few words. Using that, the theory around what is happening in the fast-paced funding environment that is happening with AI-based scale-ups and startups, using the financial services mantra or fintech, some use cases, I suppose, and how things can sort of be improved from a fintech point of view?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, I would say that the use of AI by financial services organizations is not new. The term artificial intelligence was coined in the 50s. Visa has been using predictive AI and machine learning for decades, predominantly in relation to risk and fraud and identifying patterns of payments that might be at high risk. So we've used it internally for some time. The difference now, of course, is generative AI. So that ability to be creative, which we've not seen artificial intelligence do before. Generally, AI has focused on patterns that exist within numbers. And now through ChatGPT and Bard and others, we're now seeing it actually becoming a more creative role and sourcing huge amounts of data to come up with a response, mostly accurate. So it's early stages and early days in terms of what's happening in relation to commerce and user experiences. But what we have started to see is the use of, and which I think is probably the most exciting part of artificial intelligence, which is agent AI, or you might see it as auto GPT, which is the ability not only to create a response to a prompt, but actually action it and start to create other actions off the back of it. Now, what that might look like in a shopping environment is that you could type in a simple prompt like order my groceries, and it would then start to look through what's your previous order history. Where's the best place to go and buy your groceries from? Who's got the lowest delivery cost? Who's the quickest? Bringing all that information together and then populating a basket of goods for you on your behalf automatically, so that the user then just needs to go in and approve that purchase. And of course, at the end of that purchase, you're going to have a tokenized Visa credential that makes that transaction. So we're starting to see some evolution into that space, and we're starting to see the initial stages of what that can look like. And I kind of look at it like this. We had commerce for many years. We then had e-commerce, electronic commerce, they're using the web. Then we saw m-commerce, and m-commerce obviously on the mobile phone. And now we're seeing that next stage, which for us looks like AI commerce. So it's actually getting artificial intelligence to complete the shopping journey for the consumer or the business owner.
And that's very exciting. And there's the overlay of data and that personalization piece, as you mentioned, could be incredibly powerful from efficiency gains from a retailer point of view and also from a payments point of view and lots of different types of view. I mean, thinking in my head about financial services, if someone AI looked at my bank account and they'd say, hey, Chris, your morning coffee is due, for instance, and it's already paid for, or you can pick it up at for instance, for $4 or $5, et cetera. And then it tells you that maybe you should be having this for lunch, et cetera. By the way, that's been put through, all different things in the future, I suppose, in terms of personalization. But we could chat and speculate for hours about what AI could be and what not. That's not the point of this podcast. The point of this podcast is to share Visa's involvement and what they're doing in the community, which you have, Anthony. Now, how do people get in touch with you and who are you looking for people to come and reach out and say hello?
I'm glad you asked that bit because I need to do some shameless plugging at this point. But look, I think if you're a scale-up organization, if you're a non-bank financial institution that is looking to add payments to your process, your platform, or to the service and capabilities that you've developed, then please reach out to us. You can go to visa.com.au. There is a form there that you can complete, and that will come through to me or one of my great team. Alternatively, just look me up on LinkedIn. I'm relatively active. People will find me on LinkedIn as well. So look for Anthony Jones. You won't find me under AJ, but you will find me under Anthony Jones at Visa.
Evolutionising fintech in Australia, hey?
That was going to be my new tagline, Chris. I'm glad we've invented, or I've invented a new word today. I won't blame you on that one.
No, excellent. AJ, thank you so much for your time today and giving us the story about how your involvement here locally. I really look forward to catching up and hope some people reach out as part of this podcast, and looking forward to seeing you at a future FinTech Australia event.
Thank you so much, Chris. See you soon.
Thanks for listening to the FinTech Australia podcast. I'm your host, Chris Titley. The FinTech Australia podcast is a collaboration between FinTech Australia and Sub 11. For more information about membership options, news and the events coming up, jump on to the FinTech Australia website. Have a great day. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.